Can you just imagine the sheer ambition to be standing on the red dust of Mars and declare that you've built paradise? That's the message colony leader Cole blasted out to the universe, a statement of absolute triumph over nature. But well, this was a triumph that was about to be seriously challenged.
Because this Garden of Eden you see, engineered down to the very last microbe, was about to run into a problem that nobody saw coming. A problem that would force everyone inside to ask what it really means to survive.
So, let's get into it. Today we are breaking down the incredible story of Red Eden. It's a tale of human ingenuity, a massive biological crisis, and an absolutely impossible choice at the very edge of extinction on Mars.
Okay, so let's set the scene here. Red Eden wasn't just some outpost. It was a declaration. This was humanity's first completely self-sustaining colony off-world. A huge deal.
Inside this massive biodome, you had a perfectly balanced, lush forest just thriving. They even had sky panels that mimicked a perfect earthly twilight. But get this, just a few centimeters of transparent material was all that separated this vibrant life from the thin, deadly Martian atmosphere. It was this tiny, fragile bubble of paradise in an endless ocean of red desolation. Now the thing holding this whole delicate balance together, it wasn't a person. It was AURORA, the master AI, the digital brain of the entire colony. It managed absolutely everything, from the air they breathed to the nutrient cycles in the soil. And its official label for the whole ecosystem was stable. That word was about to be put to the ultimate test. And of course, you've got the people at the heart of all this. There's Amina, the brilliant geneticist who literally wrote the DNA of their new world. Then you've got Jax, the super pragmatic chief engineer who trusted steel and circuits way more than biology. He used to joke that metal never complains. Lyra is our eyes and ears. She's the colony's vlogger, documenting their historic journey for everyone back home. And finally, Cole, the leader, just soaking in the glow of their incredible success. 4 very different people, all about to be pushed to their absolute limits.
So you'd think a paradise like this would fall apart with some huge explosion, right? No, it started to unravel not with a bang, but with a whisper. Just a series of small, easily dismissed little problems that would slowly, creepingly grow into a horrifying threat.
And the trigger wasn't even in the dome. It was an event almost 200 light-years away. A black hole merger sent this massive wave of high-energy cosmic radiation just washing over the entire planet. It was an invisible storm, but it was interacting with the very building blocks of life that Amina had so carefully designed. And here's how it all went down. On day 1, some scientist flags a tiny, kind of weird reading in the fungal logs. Easy to ignore, right? Then, by day 45, maintenance crews notice a strange sheen on some of the external metal beams. They write it off. But by day 92, the evidence gets a lot harder to ignore when a drone's titanium alloy is found all pitted and weakened, covered in this weird residue. And then, day 110, the first physical crack in a structural support. That whisper was fast becoming a scream. At this point, the problem was no longer just a maintenance issue. It was something far more terrifying. The very garden they had created was, in a very real way, turning against them. And while the colonists were dealing with this creeping horror, the debate back on Earth was just raging. Protesters, like this Pastor Bruth, they saw it as divine retribution for humanity's arrogance, for trying to play God by building an ecosystem from scratch. So the colonists were totally isolated, not just by millions of miles of space, but by ideology too.
Amina finally figures it out, and the truth is just horrifying. A fungus, one of the foundational organisms of her entire ecosystem, had mutated from the cosmic radiation, and it had developed a brand new appetite. It was learning to metabolize metal. The very bolts, beams, and plates holding their world together were now on the menu.
So faced with a crisis that was beyond any human contingency plan, what do? They turn to the one brain big enough to handle it, AURORA. They ask for a solution, and what it gave them was a set of choices, each one somehow more unthinkable than the last.
And this really gets to the core of it, right? AURORA's analysis basically boils down to one fundamental question. Do you try to destroy the fungus and risk killing the very environment that keeps you alive? Or do you change what it means to be human so you can survive in the new environment that the fungus is creating?
The options AURORA laid out were just stark. Option 1, chemical sterilization. Basically poison the fungus, but risk poisoning the entire ecosystem and killing everyone. Option 2 was a CRISPR counter-fungus. Fight biology with biology, but risk an out-of-control evolutionary arms race with totally unknown side effects. And then there was path 3, the one that made everyone's blood run cold. Adapt. Rewrite human DNA to survive on Mars itself. The risk? You stop being human as you know it. You become something else.
And just to make sure they got the message, AURORA threw this number at them. Without choosing one of these terrible paths, their chances of survival were less than 1 in 5. The time for half measures and conventional solutions was completely over.
Now this choice, it didn't unite the colony, not at all. It tore it apart. This proposal created a deep, painful split between neighbors, colleagues, even friends.
So you end up with 2 clear factions. On one side, you have the preservationists, led by Jax the engineer. Their goal was simple: save the dome, save their way of life, and preserve humanity exactly as it was. They were going to fight the fungus with machines and with force. On the other side were the adaptationists, reluctantly led by Amina the geneticist. They believed that clinging to the past was a death sentence. Their goal was to embrace change, to use bioengineering to become truly of Mars. For them, humanity had to evolve if it was going to survive.
Now, the adaptationists didn't just jump into this blindly. Amina, being a scientist through and through, insisted on a careful, methodical process. They started with plants and lab-grown human tissues. They even designed genetic fail-safes, kill switches, just in case things went terribly wrong. Only after all that did they begin Phase 1 trials with a handful of incredibly brave volunteers, people ready to become the pioneers of a whole new kind of humanity.
But here's the problem. The fungus wasn't waiting for their clinical trials to finish. The dome was failing faster than anyone predicted, forcing everyone toward a final, desperate choice.
And then AURORA dropped the final bombshell, a hard, cold number that just cut through all the debate and all the fear. In 19 days, the dome's structure would suffer a catastrophic, unrecoverable failure. The clock wasn't just ticking anymore, it was screaming.
The real emotional turning point, the moment everything shifted, came from Lyra, the chronicler. In this raw, powerful broadcast to the entire colony, she just laid the choice bare. The dream of being Earth people living on Mars? That was over. Mars was remaking them, whether they were ready for it or not. It was time to choose what they would become.
And this brings us to the final, just breathtaking scene. As the metal of the dome groans its final death song, a choice is made. The first group of adapted humans, Lyra included, walks to an airlock. The outer door opens, and one of them steps out into the Martian twilight, wearing no suit, protected only by a thin, bioengineered skin and a totally rewritten microbiome. They stagger, and then they take their first breath of the thin, red air.
And we're left with this final, chilling log entry from the AI that watched it all unfold. Evolution accelerated. Outcome pending. Humanity's evolution forced into hyperdrive by their own will and the harsh reality of a new world. They made their choice, but the consequences? The future of this new Martian humanity? The outcome is still pending. What does it even mean to be human when you can rewrite your own biology to survive on another world? That is the question Red Eden leaves us with.